When you're ready. Yeah. I've got the public hearing, subdivision, and then regular council.
Correct. Yes.
You worked today? I did. For a crop that we have to sign off. With which? With the Western Sand Law. With all our driving. So a lot of good crops though.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the regular scheduled meeting for Tabortown Council, July the 15th, 2019. We first have a public hearing and a subdivision authority meeting to take care of. So regarding the public hearing, I'll first call that meeting to order. And regarding the public hearing, members of the public in attendance who wish to speak against or for proposed bylaw number 12-2019 will have a 10-minute limit for speaking. Anyone who does wish to come forward and speak must state their full name for the record. Item number 2, proposed bylaw number 12-2019, Mr. Armfield.
Yes, I'd like to call Ms. Monks up to do an introduction of the bylaw, please.
Ms. Monks.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and members of council. At the June 24th, 2019 regular meeting of council, first reading was given to a proposed land use bylaw textual amendment that would allow for cannabis production and distribution to be a discretionary use in the M1 light industrial land use district. This will require any development permit application to be considered by the Municipal Planning Commission for suitability in the district while still allowing for flexibility. The land use bylaw also allows for the Development Authority to require additional specific design requirements or measures that ensure the development provides a safe environment that's compatible with adjacent or nearby uses, including but not limited to facade, design, lighting, signage, screening measures, building orientation and access, and measures to prevent nuisances such as odor. The amendment has been advertised in the Tabor Times July 3rd and 10th as per the requirements of the land use bylaw and the Municipal Government Act. No comments or concerns have been identified by the public. This public hearing is required to be held prior to second and third reading of the bylaw.
Great, thank you. Just for clarification, have the Planning and Economic Development Office received any written briefs against the proposed bylaw number 12-2019? All right. Is anyone here present wishing to speak against bylaw 12-2019? Anyone here wishing to speak against for the second time? Anyone here wishing to speak against for the third time? All right, seeing none. Related to oral briefs, has the Planning and Economic Development Office received any written briefs for the proposed bylaw number 12-2019?
We have not.
No, thank you. Is anyone here present who wishes to speak for proposed bylaw 12-2019? Anyone speaking for the bylaw in question for the second time? And anyone here speaking for the bylaw 12-2019 for a third and final time? All right, seeing none, I would ask for a motion, please, from council. No, we need a motion first, Councillor Strauss. Actually, a motion just to accept for information that's presented.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Tanis, motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously, thank you. And I hereby declare the meeting closed. All right, as far as the subdivision authority meeting, first call that meeting to order and ask for an adoption of the agenda as presented. Councillor Beckering.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Also move.
Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously, thank you. And ask for an adoption of the minutes for the subdivision authority, item 3.1, June 24th, 2019. Mr. Armfield?
Yeah, I don't have much to add to this. These meeting minutes are here for your consideration. If there's anything you'd like changed, let us know.
Thank you. Any questions arising? Someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Firth.
Mr. Mayor, I move that council adopts the minutes of the regular meeting of Subdivision Authority held on June 24th, 2019 as presented.
Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously, thank you. Item number 4, subdivision applications. Item 4.1, subdivision TT 19-0-002. Mr. Armfield.
Yeah, I'd like to call Ms. Monks back up to give us a presentation.
Councilor Thames.
And Mr. Mayor, I need to excuse myself, seeing as this involves a family member.
All right, thank you.
Your Worship and members of council, administration has received an application to adjust lot lines for some existing buildings along 50th Avenue. There's no change to the buildings on site, and the applicant is working with Superior Safety Codes to ensure that all fire and building code requirements will be met. The subdivision is just a lot realignment to meet with the boundaries of the existing development. The application was advertised in the Tabor Times and circulated to adjacent properties as required. An initial concern was identified by a neighboring property who understood that buildings were being demolished and felt their property needed to be protected during that work. However, once they were advised that the buildings were not being removed, they were no longer concerned with the application. The file has been taken to the Municipal Planning Commission on July 8th, and they have recommended approval. Administration is seeking approval of the subdivision by the Subdivision Authority.
Great, thank you. Any questions or rises for Ms. Monks? All right, someone prepared to make a motion? Anyone? Councilor Strauss.
Yes, Worship, at the Subdivision Authority approved subdivision application TT 19-0-002, lots 1, 2, and a portion of Lot 3, Block 8, Plan 5638L within the Northwest Quarter, Section 32. Township. Yeah, sorry. Township 9. Boy, mine's not working. Range Road 16, west of the 4th Meridian, with the following conditions 1 through 7.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Ask for a motion to close the meeting, please. Councilor Becker.
So move, Mr. Mayor.
Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. And on to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Town Council. First call the meeting to order and ask for an adoption of the agenda as presented. Councilor Firth.
I move to adopt the agenda as presented.
Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. On to item number 3, adoption of the minutes. Item 3.1, minutes of regular meeting of council, June 24th, 2019. Mr. Armfield.
Council has for their consideration the meeting minutes from June 24th. If there's any changes you'd like us to make, please let us know.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? Someone prepared to make a motion? Councilor Jack Bruin.
Boy, oh boy, something's in the water today. I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Mayor, that council adopts the minutes of the regular meeting of subdivision. That's what's me there. Pardon me.
Say water.
It must be the same water. I've lost my page here, sorry.
Okay.
Step in. Council accepts the minutes of the regular meeting of council held June 24th, 2019 as presented.
Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Good, thank you. Item 3.2, minutes special meeting of council of July 3rd, 2019. Mr. Armfield.
You have for your consideration the special council meeting minutes from July the 3rd.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? Someone prepared to make a motion? Councilor Beckering.
Mr. Mayor, I move that council adopts the minutes of the special meeting of council held on the 3rd of July, 2019 is presented.
Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Business arise from the minutes. There are none. Item 5, bylaws. Item 5.1, land use bylaw, textual amendment bylaw. Mr. Armfield.
So this is the second and third reading potential for the land use bylaw amendment that you just had the public hearing for. Ms. Monks, she's available to answer any questions if you have any questions. If not, it's a second and third reading of that bylaw.
All right, thank you. Counselor Thames?
I'm prepared to make a motion, Mr. Mayor.
All right.
That council gives second reading to bylaw 12-2019 as presented.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously, thank you. And third required reading, Counselor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council gives third reading to bylaw 12-2019 as presented.
Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Good, thank you. On to action items. Item number 6.1, water treatment plant generator. Mr. Armfield.
Yeah, I'm going to hand this over to Mr. Shear. This is for the generator at the water treatment plant. If council remembers going on a tour there about a year and a half ago, you remember the state of that generator wasn't in the greatest shape. Here for a refreshment, Mr. Shear.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Armfield. As is a 2019 capital budget, a generator replacement is required. We went from a 300 watt to a 500 watt generator, the automatic transfer switch, other electrical components, plus fill in the blocks for the existing walls, and a new concrete pad, because it's an exterior generator. We didn't go interior, we went exterior. They're far easier to maintain. So we're asking for council's acceptance of the tender award, which was to Tarpon Energy was the lowest tender. Good tender. You can see on the results there. We don't have any concerns.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? Someone prepared to make a motion? Counselor Bruin.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that council awards a water treatment plant generator and an ATS replacement tender to Tarpon Energy Services Limited for the amount of $257,317.20 inclusive of the GST.
Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 6.2, primary clarifier capital purchase. Mr. Armfield.
Yeah, this one is a bit of a unique one, given the uniqueness of our clarifier and the infrastructure there. Administration is looking for some direction to sole source this one, actually. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Shear for a bit more explanation.
Remember when we came away on our tour with all of council, we looked at our primary clarifier. We did point out that subcomponents within that clarifier are going to have to be replaced, the chains and the arms, and we're rebuilding it. So we really only have one supplier of the same equipment we have. If we went to other sources, the specifications would change. We'd have to modify. So we're asking council to sole source this, so everything fits. Everything will be within our budget, because we'd have to ask, may have to ask more money to fit other components to it. It's just basically a good buy. It's you saw the materials on the sheets. It's not just a one item. It's 50, 60 different items. So it's not just one specific clarifier. So that makes up the whole capital purchase. So we're asking council to source this to primary clarifier equipment, and so we can get on with the purchase, and the work's going to be done in-house this fall.
Thank you. Any questions arise for Mr. Shear? Councilor Thames.
Yes, so, and I understand the purpose of the sole sourcing. So once we're all done with and sole sourced this, do we get a warranty on this work that they're doing?
Of course, yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Anything else?
Question, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Bruin.
What did we budget for on this, Gary?
It's $225,000.
So we're
within
under budget on
yes.
the purchase.
Yep.
All right. Someone prepared to make a motion? Councilor Beckering.
Mayor, I have a question before.
Sure.
This company called Novatech, have you had experience with them, Mr. Shear?
They've supplied numerous parts for our wastewater plant lots of times, especially for this clarifier too. This isn't the first part we've bought for it, that's for sure.
Motion, Mr. Mayor.
Absolutely. If you're ready.
Mr. Mayor, I move that council directs administration to purchase the primary clarifier equipment from Novatech Equipment Sales Incorporated for the amount of $212,615, excluding GST.
Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 6.3, Southside Pathway Concern, Mr. Armfield.
We have heard from a resident who is adjacent to a pathway in the south side a number of times about his concern over the condition of that pathway. There's really only so much administration can do with that. There's no treatment to the surface of that, so weeds do grow there, and we have to be fairly diligent with cutting those weeds. Mr. Shear's group is out there as often as they can get out there maintaining it. It's still not to the satisfaction of the adjacent neighbor though, and so this is why it's been brought to the council level to get direction on what council would like to do with that particular pathway, whether we treat it with some other surfacing or we go in some other direction for a future capital budget. And
Any questions arising? Councillor Firth?
Mr. Mayor, through to Mr. Shear, what is the current condition? Is it gravel with?
Just gravel, basically, yes.
Okay.
Yes. We did get a price to replace the, tear out about 3-4 inches of gravel and get the proper drainage. And we would use a limestone medium, which is what's in your pathway in the stairs, in that overall pathway going down the river. The price is $10,000 to replace all that if you chose to move forward with that.
Just to clarify, Mr. Shear.
Or you could leave that
Sure.
for future capital consideration.
Yeah, just to clarify, I'm not sure what difference that makes. You see, you dig out 3-4 inches of gravel and then put lime in place of that, and
Well, right now, it doesn't drain that well. So to get proper drainage, we have to start from one end and go to the, apparently it's to the north. It goes to the cul-de-sac there, that 39th Avenue. And we go straight across, so we make sure we got grade going all the way through. And then we resurface it with a limestone product, and it's about 2 inches thick, so it packs really hard. I'm not saying weeds will never grow out of it. It's just a better product than gravel. You definitely would suppress the weeds, but won't totally destroy them, that's for sure.
Mr. Firth?
Mr. Mayor, I just had a follow-up question. So the concern is drainage or weeds or the surface of the path? Like, I'm just not sure.
All three.
Okay.
Yeah, another clarification question. I believe the last meeting when this came up was a standing item request that the millings were a possibility. Is that something that's doable in that location that's would be a help by chance or not?
Millings is a unique product. We pack it down. It's almost like a hard surface, but it breaks up more frequently. If we get water into it, then it acts like a frost heave. You'll see it pop up quite often. This product actually has more flexibility within it, especially with frost in the area, and it is a high wet area. Like the water ponds in quite a few spots.
Just wondering if I've seen we've had some good luck with the millions in different locations for repair work in town with vehicular traffic, and it does break up over time, right? But with foot traffic, is that going to break down, or does it just take that much longer to break down?
It'll just take that much longer. But like there again, this product actually, the limestone will suppress the weeds more than the millings. That's for sure.
So no matter how you stack it, short of an asphalt replacement, you're still going to have.
If you want an
weeds.
actual asphalt or concrete replacement, you probably $15,000 mark.
And I don't know. There was some ask about the actual need for that path to even be there. It's.
That we've had that discussion too. Wouldn't you sell it to maybe one of the residents on each side that wanted to buy it?
Yeah, and I think there was some discussion about that, but I'm not sure if there was any interest. Was there, Mr. Armfield, that we're aware of?
the neighbor who has raised the concerns is not interested in purchasing it.
What am I looking at there? Is it about
So this is the
10,
path.
12 feet wide? Probably 12 feet wide. It is definitely an eyesore. I can see that where he's coming from there. But I guess in your mind, Mr. Shear, that excuse me, gravel removal and or lime replacement is likely the best way to go.
We think it's the best product for this application, yes. The gravel is definitely going to just allow water to soak in. The limestone will pack harder, allow for better drainage.
It's hard to tell from this picture, but is there a grade there, or is that relatively level?
There's not really a grade there. It humps really close to the lane.
So there is some water collection
there
one
is
end or
some
the
water
other?
collection, yes.
Okay. Councillor Firth, I believe you had another question there.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just wondering about how much time is staff spending maintaining this?
We cut it about every week and a half to 2 weeks.
Okay.
Nothing that we would be doing here as a possibility would affect that fire hydrant location then. I take it, eh? Okay. All right. Councillor Thames?
So, through to Greg, is it unsafe?
It's safe. It's like walking down a lane. There's no difference, right?
Because I look at it, it's a non-budgeted item, so if it's not unsafe, and then we could deal with it next year. I think this is more based on a resident's concern than it is a safety factor.
We could bring it up to the capital budget, and then you could review it at that time. And we probably have better costs and a better idea exactly what's going on there too.
Questions arising? Councillor Becker?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In your opinion, Mr. Chair, is this thing being utilized or do you not know?
I do not know how many people walk on that a day.
And where does that lead to?
Well, it just goes from one avenue to the next.
Oh, okay.
That's
Thank
all.
you.
Sorry, what is that building at the bottom there, the flat top there? That's apartment building, is it?
Apartments on the
Yeah.
south side, yeah.
Okay, now I see where.
I guess in all fairness to this gentleman, I wasn't aware of this previous, but I think Public Works he indicates he's talked to the town on several occasions over the last number of years and wasn't met with satisfaction, I guess, for lack of better terminology. Is his take on it anyway, but I don't know, because that's part of it. It's a concern that's been brought forth to council, but I think the gentleman's lived there like 20 years or something like that. So I guess I can see his frustrations where he's coming from. If it's been ongoing for off and on that length of time or roundabout. But what's the best course of action? That's our concern at this stage anyway. Councillor Brown?
My thoughts are, if it isn't a well-used path, like it's a lot of money to spend for someone not to use, perhaps we could make a deal with these landowners that they would take it on or sell it to them, or because that adds quite a bit to their lot. They'd have a drive-through lane for an RV or something if they were to purchase that. So there are some more options maybe that we should look into if they would be willing to work a deal. I would suggest.
Just clarify that one gentleman was not interested, not to say that the other one wouldn't be necessarily, but that's where you're going with that, Councillor Brown?
I think I would do just to do a little more research and see if they would be interesting. I suppose that, well, the fire hydrant wouldn't be, it's something to look at instead of spending money on a trail that's not used. I'm not sure what it connects to even. Like, is it the school's further north, right?
It's just the next street over. So
Actually, if you just walk east, and then you can walk right around to the school. So
Something I think we should really take our look at, trying either to get rid of it to the owners or something. So it's a thought.
that amount of land is, we got a roundabout what that chunk might be worth.
I think we've been using, what's our per acre price that we've used on the south side before, Ms. Monks? What's that?
I would say the 20,000.
20,000 an acre? Yeah.
Yeah, we did recently have a sale of a laneway, but it's also a road, so that we'd have to look at trying to get your cost back if that was what council intended, because last time when we sold a pathway, we probably didn't recover our costs with the associated legal fees and then the lane closure and all of the other work that had to occur as part of that.
Councillor Brown?
There is no right of way there with the pipe, with that hydrant being there. There is no
not that
pipeline.
we're aware of, no.
I think that was clarified last meeting. There is no infrastructure attached to this at all, right? Councillor Stravas?
Yes, Your Worship, on Ms. Monk's comments there. On the other hand, then it would save maintenance costs as far as not having to endure going back and forth to there. So, you know, if you did lose some money on the sale of it anyways, you're going to gain in time over the fact that you're not running back and forth there cutting the weeds. So there is an offsetting factor there as well.
It does, sorry, through your worship, it does also add to the walkability there, so again, I'm not certain about how frequently it's used now, but I mean, in subdivision and development design, we would look to add those types of connectivity in a neighborhood. So depending on how often it's used, I guess, would be the question. It does provide connectivity through.
So maybe we suggest to council that let's do a bit more research on it, see how many people are actually using it, and then bring it back for future consideration.
All right, everybody good with that suggestion? All right, that give you enough time, Mr. Shearer, for the August meeting?
Well, I see it's not the school season, so I don't know who will be walking through there, right? So I would kind of suggest let's leave it for capital budget, and we'll bring it through with a bit of a report at that time.
Mr. Becker?
Mr. Mayor, I'm prepared to make a motion to something to that effect.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that council directs administration to add this project, possible project, to the 2020 capital budget for review and a report.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 6.4, bylaw, section 15.09, horse traffic within the town limits. Mr. Arnfeld.
Yes, this comes out of our last council meeting where council directed administration to look into other municipalities' treatment of horses, riding horses in the municipality. Ms. Dam has done some research in that regard, and she can share that with council, and we can look for some additional direction on what you would like us to do with this information. Ms. Dam?
Thank you. Ms. Dam.
Okay. We'll just have Erica review what she's covered off
Sure.
for you guys.
Yes, so we've included 5 municipalities, including Tabor. So I'm just going to go through them quick and then give you a brief idea of what they do regarding horses in their corporate limits. So the city of Calgary, they do have a schedule as to where horses are allowed to be ridden within the city. They do direct their bylaw to a horse-drawn vehicle, which is a carriage, but I believe that we're looking more into recreational use. So we're going to focus more on that. So included in there is a schedule. The city of Brooks, livestock is not permitted within the city limits at all, so they don't allow horses at all. The town of Claresholm, they only speak to horses in regards to fire and funerals. Other than that, there's no limitations as to what's going on. So it's our assumption that they're allowed to use horses through the entire municipality. And then the town of Coaldale, it says that animals are allowed on roadways and alleys, and other than that, they're allowed through the entirety of Coaldale, so they can ride their horses as long as they're on the alleyways and roadways. And in the town of Tabor, they are only allowed in parades and nowhere else.
Great. Thank you. Any questions arising? Councillor Firth.
Mr. Mayor, through to Ms. Dam. Other than Calgary, is there any other municipalities that have any mention of what to do with droppings?
Yes. So through my research, and I did branch out to the other interns that are in Alberta and looking, there's not a lot of direction to what people can do with horses within towns or cities. Calgary was really the only one that I could find, so to my knowledge.
We should point out also there was a discussion about insurance. When we contacted a local insurance broker, he did say there is a clause in some insurances that allow for liability insurance while riding an animal. So there is that clause, but you have to make sure your homeowner policy covers that. Every insurance policy is different, so you just wanted to make sure you clarify that, but it is in some policies.
Mr. Stramos.
So, Your Worship, we could draft a bylaw that states that they are only permitted in alleyways, not through the downtown core, and that they have the appropriate attachment to collect their droppings, and craft it in such a way that it covers that. Alleyways, for the most part, are all unpaved, except basically in the downtown core. So you could certainly make those recommendations, but I think we probably need to hear from before we proceed with this, we would need to hear from the police chief and the standards and his bylaw standards people to make sure that we're heading in the right direction with this here.
Councillor Firth?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through to Councillor Strauss. If we said alleys only, though, would that encompass 80th Avenue? Because I think that's really what we were talking about initially, was that horses were being ridden on 80th Avenue.
Yes, Councillor Firth, but they were leaving the agriplex going up to 80th Avenue to get to the outskirts of town. So, the conversation was, should we allow them in town? Well, just allow them on 80th Avenue. Eventually, 80th Avenue would become paved and become a major thoroughfare. So I would think that, in the interest of changing the bylaw a few years down the road, if you direct it towards alleyways, which are for the most part unpaved, you would have a little more longevity in the bylaw.
Councillor Bruin?
I don't know if anyone would know, but if we ever had incidents with horse accidents in town of Taber?
I don't know that. That'd be a question for Taber Police Service.
I'm in favor for the horse riding in the town and town property, as long as they stay off paved roads and walkways. We're not going to get stampeded by horses if we make a bylaw. I would be in favor, though, of something with children under the age of 14 must be accompanied by an adult or responsible person. I don't know how you would word that, but and of course some to pick up the poop, and a fine if they do not. And I think most of them are quite responsible, and if they cause troubles, they get fined. It's my feelings on the matter with horses. We don't have troubles with them now. I don't expect to have troubles with them.
Councillor Thames?
This all come up, and it had to do with riding horses from the Agplex into 80th Avenue. And in my mind, if we took 64th Avenue and north to 80th Avenue, that gives them, they can ride their horse around the Agplex, they can ride it out so they can get to Highway 36 or they can get to the 864. And it encompasses 90% of what we deal with horses. The only other time you really see horses in town is on parade day. And, the odd one here and there, but by and large, I don't see it as a big issue. So if we were to go from 64th Avenue north, that allows them to go from the Agplex either to Highway 36 or to 864, and it covers where 90% of the horse riding happens.
Councillor Strauss?
Your Worship, I understand where Councillor Thames is coming from this here, but in this environmentally sensitive area, and perhaps people would hop on their horse and run down to the local 7-Eleven to get a quart of milk. That's it's definitely a lot cheaper than starting up your car.
Councillor Bruin?
Add to that, you see lots of horses actually ride up to 7-Eleven for a Slurpee on a hot day. Not lots, but that's where they head if they want a cold drink, I think. I think this is nothing for us to really be concerned about. If they have liability and they have to obey the traffic laws according to the Alberta Traffic Safety Act, they have to obey the same guidelines as a vehicle. They have to do that. So I don't think it's an issue. I think we're worried about nothing here. It's not. If it becomes a problem, we can always change it. If people abuse it, we'll change it.
I think there was some discussion about the police chief and or bylaw having some input there. I think that would be an important factor in this question.
Your Worship, I think we should perhaps get some involvement from those people and look at crafting a bylaw that would cover those points that we addressed earlier. I don't think we're in a position to make a decision here this evening without that input.
All right. You want to craft a motion in that regard?
We just table it. Waiting for
You
additional.
could make a motion to table it for further information from Community Standards Bylaw and the police chief.
That's a motion?
That's a motion.
Okay. All right. Does that cover the bases enough, Mr. Armstrong, in that regard?
Then the intent would be to have the community standards officer and Chief Abella in at the next council meeting to speak to council about this.
I would think so. Then we've got information from them, possible problems that they would have.
Sure, and our recommendation, I think, would be favorable for sure. All right, okay. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Good, thank you. Item 6.5, special meeting of council, funding requests. Mr. Armfield.
I'm going to ask Mr. Orwa to step up to the mic. It's that season again, budgeting time, where we have a number of organizations that are funded at arm's length and from the municipality looking to come in and do presentations. The thought has been to have all of these people come in one time, but really it's up to council. This is an RFD we were putting in front of council for a discussion on how you would like to handle these outside organizations. Sorry, Mr. Orwa kind of did all the explaining. But if you have anything to add, I think it's that straightforward.
Thank you, members of council. I think you've covered almost everything there. It's just a request to have a special meeting because there are 6 of them. And basically, if you look at maybe between 10 to 15 minutes, we'll not cover all those 6 in one regular council meeting. So we're just requesting for a special meeting to cover all of them.
All right. Any questions arising? Councillor Beckering?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not opposed to having a special meeting to discuss these 6 particular items. And I agree with Mr. Orva that perhaps we should have a meeting. So this is going to take an hour and a half, most likely. I would recommend, though, that the meeting would not commence until 5 o'clock.
All right. Any other questions? Someone prepared to make a motion?
Your Worship, just
Councillor
a question here to Mr. Orwa. At what time frame would you like to see this? Because we go into budgetary process in September. Would you like to do it before September, or?
Yes, preferably I would like it before September so that we can incorporate their numbers into the final budget. And one other question, just as a follow-up, is probably we'll also need some direction from council because already 2020 has been approved by council. And I'm not very sure whether you would want them to make any changes to their 2020 budget. The reason why I bring it up, we already seen Tabor Public Library bring a request for 19, so they're likely to bring another request for 2020. If you would like to allow that change, then probably in my letter to them, we should specify that for 2020, we'll only be identifying the changes. But if council doesn't want any changes in 2020, then we'd also let them know. So we'd like also direction from council.
Mr. Towns?
So my question is for Mr. Armfelt. What's the date of the next council meeting? August 12th or the 19th?
19th. Yeah.
Would August the 12th give you enough time to get these people lined up?
August 12th probably might be very close because I've already talked to them and I think there's lots of challenges out there, especially when it comes to 3-year rolling budget. So I'm not very sure whether 12th August most of them shall have completed. If we could maybe just extend it out a little bit for them.
Suggestion for the 26th, August 26th. That's the week after our regular council meeting. Is that doable for everybody? Councillor Strauss?
Your Worship, that's the 26th, of course, is right after Cornfest there, so that might impact that.
Unless we did it the week of the council meeting, like a Tuesday or Wednesday. Is that
Tuesday would be out. Rec Board has a thing that they're trying to get arranged for the 20th.
21st is, I believe, the police commission meeting. If there is a police commission meeting, it might be off until September, but if there was one, it would be on that 21st date typically.
for our commission members? Is there a meeting on that date that you're on?
We don't meet during the summertime,
Right.
so unless one was called.
It's called.
Yeah. But I suppose it could be called for an alternate date as well.
Right. Okay, do we want to go with that 21st date then?
I'm prepared to make a motion.
All right.
Your Worship, just the 21st is the beginning of Cornfest, though. I mean, there's going to be a lot of activities around this area here, setting up and whatnot. Is that?
2nd is technically the start of Corn Fest.
But don't they
They set up
start
on
setting up on the
Start
Wednesday
setting up.
and
Well,
Make it 26.
I guess all that week, yeah, there's activity, but anyway, we're just trying to accommodate as best we can there. This is a suggestion, but, or did you have some other potential dates, Mr. Orwell, you'd like to see at all?
Anything towards the end of August or even that first week of September, maybe the 3rd of September, because 2nd is a holiday. If that would work for council.
Mr. Thames?
You know, listen to John, they need some time, so I could see the September 3rd date, and with that, I'm prepared to make a motion. That council approves a special meeting of council to be held on September 3rd at 5 o'clock to discuss the funding requests, delegations for community-related organizations.
All right, motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Good, thank you. Item 6.6, power up. Mr. Armfeldt.
Yeah, I'm going to call in Ms. Monk up to provide council with an explanation of what's coming out of the Joint Economic Development Committee, their concept for a conference.
Afternoon again, Mr. Mayor, members of council. So in March 2019, our administration was approached by Business Link to see if there was an interest in hosting a Power Up conference. This conference is sponsored by Business Link, ATB, and the Alberta government, and is designed as an opportunity to provide knowledge and expertise to encourage entrepreneurs to network and learn from each other. There have been several across Alberta in the last 3 years, and we are quite excited to be offered the opportunity. The request was taken forward to the Joint Economic Development Committee as a possible joint initiative, and at the May meeting, a motion was made that the JADC support hosting and organizing the Power Up conference. JADC has sent requests out to its memberships, the Town of Taber, MD of Taber, Community Futures Chinook, Taber Chamber of Commerce, the Town of Vauxhall, and the Vauxhall Chamber of Commerce, requesting letters of support. At this time, no financial support has been requested. Once the planning of the event is more definitive and there are financial asks, we would come back to council if required. At this time, administration would request council support in the form of a letter to be signed by the mayor on the town's behalf.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? Someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Firth?
Mr. Mayor, I move that council authorizes administration to provide a letter of support to the Joint Economic Development Committee initiative to host a Power Up conference.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 6.7, encroachment agreement. Mr. Armfeldt.
The next item is outside of the scope of the encroachment agreement policy that I can endorse as the CAO. That's why it's coming to council. Ms. Monks, if you can do the next presentation.
Yes, so the planning department has received a request for a compliance certificate for a homeowner submitting their real property report as part of their home purchase. It was identified that the applicant's driveway encroaches into an asphalt walkway by 1.23 meters at the entrance and 1.18 meters towards the back of the property. The walkway is actually quite large. It's approximately 6 meters wide. The land use bylaw would consider this a major encroachment, and under the Town of Taber's encroachment agreement procedure, it's required that any encroachment over 0.3 meters must be reviewed and considered by council. An encroachment agreement has been provided by the applicant's lawyer, and administration would request council's consideration and potential approval of the encroachment.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? Someone prepared to make a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I just have one question.
Councillor
When
Brown.
was this cement poured? Like, when was this job done? And
We don't have an exact date as to when the sidewalk was in. My assumption is that it's been in there for quite some time, and just due to the fact that they're trying to sell their property, it came through on the compliance certificate. So it's been there for a while, but now that they're looking to sell the property, that's how we kind of catch these little encroachment agreements, is when they come through on the real property reports.
just looking at the pictures, it almost looks like it's is it a fire access, fire trucks coming in off 54th into that cul-de-sac? I just looking at the poster, it looks like it's barred any vehicles coming through that. Is it a right of way for fire trucks or emergency vehicles?
I'm not sure what it's designated for. specifically. I believe that the intent maybe was for a walking path because it follows through up through to 54th Avenue. So I think it was just like a connectivity situation, but potentially it could have been for a fire roadway at one time.
I could probably add some clarity. I would bet that there is a sanitary line that goes from this cul-de-sac north. Looking at our public works folks, there would be, I'm quite certain there would be a sanitary line that connects from this cul-de-sac up into 54th Avenue. Given other situations very similar that we've experienced in the town of Taber, that would be my guess. That there's actually a sanitary line. So it's a utility right-of-way essentially, and then they've used it, paved it as a pedestrian corridor. But I would bet there's a sanitary line in there.
Councillor Ruth?
Mr. Mayor, I'm somewhat familiar with the neighborhood. It was a road, I think, at one point, and now it's a walking path, and there's like metal and, thank you, bollards, not posts. So there's no, it's not a road anymore, it's just a walkway now, but it is quite wide, probably wide enough to be a road at one point.
Okay. Councillor Beckering.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It seems to me that if administration is satisfied with the encroachment agreement, why would we oppose it? I'm prepared to make a motion, Mr. Mayor.
All right.
That council authorize the mayor and the CAO to endorse the encroachment agreement for Lee and Carla Clarkson regarding 5215 51st Street, Lot 37, Block 44, Plan 266JK.
All right. Motion on the table. Councillor Barone.
Should we make note of checking to see if it is an emergency access though before we shut it down, or is we're fine?
Administration is okay recommending this. We're recommending that this go forward and have the blessing of council, and we'll endorse the encroachment agreement. So we've done our homework, and the surface works that are there, that'll ride on that title. And if we ever need to gain access to that parcel, we will have the ability to remove that concrete. And that's really what our concern is. If we have to dig down, we get to dig down. And that's essentially what the encroachment agreement says.
It's basically an easement until we need it.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Once again, motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Good. Thank you. Item 6.8, dignitary flag flying. Mr. Armfield.
Administration has been made aware that the Higashiomi delegation, the group that comes from Japan, will be in town from Saturday, September 21st till September the 27th. And we have been asked by the Friendship Society to fly the Japanese flag for the period of their visit. This is what the request for a decision is in front of council at the moment. Looking for council's endorsement of that.
All right. Any questions arising? Someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Tams.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I move that council authorizes the Japanese flag to be flown at the Town of Taber Administration Building for the week of September 21st to 27, 2019.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 6.9, strategic plan year one report. Mr. Armfield.
So council can appreciate by the size of the attachment of this document that we haven't put the strategic plan on the shelf and let it gather dust, that we have actually been following through with all of the strategic initiatives that council had given administration direction to undertake. I think I'll just leave it open if there's any questions from council on the report itself, rather than go through page by page. I think I just turn it back over to council. If you have any specific questions, you may. I'm rather proud of the approach that administration has taken on the strategic plan, and you'll see that there's a number of accomplishments that we can check off the list, and we'll keep at it. I think next year when we bring this back around for review, we'd be asking for some amendments, some new strategic initiatives to be put into place to follow, because we've crossed a few of them off. But there's always the opportunity for council to amend that plan and give us some new direction if you would like to do that. Otherwise, the information is there, and for what administration has been up to over the last year based on your direction.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? Anyone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just had a comment that reading through it made me really proud of all of the good work that is being done in our community. And with that, I'll make the motion.
Right.
I move that council accepts the strategic plan 1-year progress report for information.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 610, Arts and Heritage Committee, Mr. Armfeldt.
Yes, we'll have our latest addition to the management team come forward, Ms. Hembro, who is our arts, culture, and events coordinator. And one of the first jobs that she had tasked to her was to come up with the terms of reference that could be utilized to put together a bylaw for the Arts and Heritage Committee as per the strategic plan. There are some handouts that we can give council if you would like to have a bit more background information. Otherwise, the information really that's in your RFD is what we use to come up with the recommendation. Maybe as Ms. Hembro, as you're speaking, I can just pass out the attachments that went along. But if you would like to take away the introduction for us, go ahead. Please speak right into the microphone.
Following direction from the 2018 strategic plan to create an Arts and Heritage Committee, administration has done research on other Albertan municipalities and is now handing out art and culture bylaws for your review and consideration. It is administration's recommendation to have the following committee structure: 2 town councillors, 1 MD councillor, 4 town residents or 3 town residents and 1 MD resident, all with interests or backgrounds in art, culture, and heritage. Myself, as the ACE coordinator, will attend all meetings in an advisory capacity, and the CAO will appoint a non-voting secretary. Administration's intention with creating this committee is to mirror the Recreation Board and to promote art, culture, and heritage projects, programs, and events, as well as liaise with art, culture, and heritage groups within the town. Administration is seeking direction from council regarding the development of bylaws and the structure of the committee.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? So we're in need of 2 representatives from town council, correct? Mr. Armfeldt?
At this stage, what we're looking for is we've provided some concepts for how this committee could be formed. So we're looking for council to support that direction, that recommendation that administration has given you. And then at the kind of 60,000 foot level, if you're in support of the direction that Ms. Hembro has recommended that we go in, we will go away and craft a bylaw. And then once council passes that bylaw, then you will be able to appoint 2 members of council based off of that bylaw to this newly formed committee. But the first step is really giving administration enough meat for the soup, to borrow a phrase, in order to put together a bylaw that then council can evaluate and pass, and then recommend members of the community to go on to that committee, and then 2 members of council as well. So it's really a discussion at this point.
Mr. Towns?
So it said it mirrored the rec board thing, just so that what's coming back in the bylaw is exactly the Arts and Heritage Committee and their responsibilities then mirrored under the same bylaw as a rec board bylaw?
Yeah, it would be the same makeup of the committee. We had spoken, and there's a number of communities in Bloom, for example. There may be interest from some members of the communities in Bloom group to be on the Arts and Heritage Committee. They're very active in the community. They have some good ideas. Many of those don't actually reside in the town of Taber, from Cranford and Barnwell outside of the geographical boundaries of the town of Taber. So that's a group that's, definitely focused on Taber, but the members aren't necessarily living in Taber. So that would give us the opportunity to appoint a member from the Communities in Bloom group to be on this committee. And it's groups like that. That's one particular example, but that's why we've taken the approach, and why I think the rec board is as strong as it is, because we have taken that approach. Other than the Municipal Planning Commission, all of those members are Taber residents. This one has a bit of a wider scope, so to speak. And that's what our recommendation is.
All right. Councillor Strauss?
Worship, just for clarification, so this committee is going to report to which director then?
Ultimately up through the Recreation Department.
So it'll be sub of the recreation and then come across. Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions? Someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Thames?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, the council gives administration direction to create an Arts and Heritage Committee with the following guidelines. Would you want me to read all 5 or just 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 as we have in our package?
That suffice as per normal. And there's items listed as such. All right, so motion on the table. Councillor Beckering.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Regarding the recommendation and the points, there's one, however, that speaks about representation for residents from the town of Taber, or 3 residents from the town of Taber, and 1 from the MD. I would strongly recommend that we have three residents from the town of Taber and 1 from the MD, in addition to an MD councillor. That's my view.
All right. Okay, once again, motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 611, policy proposed for repeal. Mr. Armfield.
Bringing one more policy to council based off of the direction of the strategic plan to review all of the policies. So this particular one, the oil well drilling on town lands policy, was created in 1990. And really the world has changed significantly from 1990 as it relates to negotiating with the oil and gas industry. Noted in the request for decision, the Action Surface Rights Association really is the organization that sets the bar for what municipalities and private citizens can expect to get from compensation when an oil and gas outfit wants to tread on their land to drill a well or build a pipeline or have an access road. So we have really strayed away from that policy from 1990 in direct negotiations with CNRL over the last 5 years probably. And the interest is not there. I mean, everything is drilled up and it's tied in, and we're just not experiencing the same amount of interest in access to town lands as probably was experienced in 1990 when this policy came into effect. So your administration is recommending removing this policy from the suite of policies that administration follows.
All right. Any questions arising? Someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council repeals surface lease oil companies oil well drilling on town lands policy M89 10/13/90.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 612, information for council. Mr. Armfield.
Yeah, just a bit of good news coming out of the abilities of the Public Works to charm our Fortis Alberta electrical provider. Upon going back to Fortis, they have renegotiated their price to install some lighting in the alleyways downtown. Originally, council had made a motion to spend $8,703.82 on that. Fortis Alberta has come back and indicated that they are willing to do that for free. So that's a good news, bit of information for council.
All right, thank you, and thanks to Mr. Shearer for your efforts and or wrist twisting or whatever that might have taken, or Lisa. Appreciate that very much. That's great to hear. All right, and you don't need a motion on that, correct?
No, we're good there.
Okay.
You
do.
can accept
Sorry.
the material
You do,
as
yes.
information.
Councillor Strauss.
I'll make motion that council accept the material received in this agenda item as information.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 613, department reports. And we'll go through them individually, and if you have a question, please say so. Administrative service report. Recreation department report. Fire department report. Public Works and wastewater report. Engineering and Public Works report. Finance activity report. Plan and economic development report. And CAO activity report. No questions arising. Someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council accepts the department reports for information.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. On to mayor and council reports. Councillor Stravas.
Your Worship, nothing to report at this time.
All right, thank you. Councillor Bruin.
I have really nothing new to report. It's interesting that Lethbridge joined board with Highway 3 Committee and have contributed, I believe, $7,500 to the committee, which is nice to see their interest back in on it. Attended coffee with council and various other activities throughout the last few weeks.
All right, thank you. Councillor Firth.
Nothing major. Attended JEDC meeting and had the opportunity to attend the Canada Day breakfast put on by the town and the flag raising that day.
All right, thank you. Councillor Becker.
Nothing new to report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Towns.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, but I'm going to have to join everybody else. Nothing major to report.
Okay. For me, a fairly busy month overall. Just a few highlights. Attended St. Mary's Grad, very nice event. Also the IPSC shooting provincials, some 200 plus shooters from province-wide and out of country as well. Mr. Armfield also participated in that event, and a great event, fun had by all, great for the community and area. Also attended Summer Games opening ceremonies along with the alumni dinner. That was also a very well attended and very well run event. And Tabor was very successful once again with their athletic abilities and results. So congratulations to all the participants as well. Also attended the Coledale 100th anniversary parade celebration and the event, which is also a very nice get together and a well run event. And that'll do it for myself. Someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move the council accepts the mayor and councilor reports for information.
Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. And item 615, standing item council requests. Anything come up? Councillor Stravas.
Your Worship, just an update. We have received information from the Alberta Japan Twin Municipalities Association. The conference is going to be in September, Friday the 20th and Saturday the 21st of September. We've got this, in our agenda package here as an uncompleted item that's in progress. At this point, we would need to give them a letter requesting to host the conference in 2021 for our anniversary. I will be registering to go to that. There's also at the forefront of our Higashiomi delegates arriving that same weekend. So that's just something that we should move forward on at this time.
Just ask for a letter supporting that.
Well, we need a letter requesting to host the 2021 conference for the Alberta Municipalities Twinning Association.
September 2021.
No, just a letter requesting that we would like to host it in 2021. Yes. Okay. I'm getting confused with the September 2021, but it'll be in 21. Sorry.
Okay.
In 21.
All right.
So if that's something that administration can draw up and have you sign, then I will be going to that conference. And
all right, no motion required for that, Mr. Armfield. We're okay with that simple letter.
I think that follows that resolution 292/2018, and we can craft a letter right away based off of that. Yeah.
Okay, very good. Councillor Bruin, I believe as a result of our coffee with council, we had one come up that was, I believe you're going to speak to. I can help you out as well there, but regarding the power cords and or trailers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just concerns are brought up again at Coffee with Council about the ability to plug in your fifth wheel or camper trailer in front of your house. If the town has made any decisions on that, and if we are going to allow it, how will they do it, and are there specific ways they can do it? And I said, or Mr. Mayor said, we'd bring it up to standing items, see if we should discuss that a little further.
Yeah, that was a fairly lengthy topic of discussion there. Bottom line is, I guess, how do you explain this?
I think the bottom line is we got to figure out if we want to allow people to plug their trailers in, and if we do, how they can go about it, and for how long they can plug in. And
Well, it was suggested there's not consistency going on with the enforcement of the bylaw, and it's happening, and you drive around town, you can see that quite regular, and this particular individual didn't get a violation ticket, but he did get a warning to remove the cord forthwith, and I think that was completely fair, and myself and Councillor Bruno have both seen this elsewhere recently, so he's not making it up as far as what's going on around town. So I guess that's part of our concern, and how we try to accommodate everybody in a fair and equal fashion in that regard. Councillor Stravas?
Worship, being a former camper, lots of times you pull your trailer up front on a Thursday and you plug it in to get your fridges and everything working properly and stock it up with food so you can take off on Friday. So I think it's something that in this day and age, recreation is a big factor in most people's lives. I know in the wintertime we allow those little stands to go across the sidewalk. Perhaps we need to change our bylaw so that in the summertime those stands could be used, direct cords across the sidewalk as well, so that it's not a tripping hazard.
Well, the comparison was what we do at Cornfest when we're doing the power cords across the park here, and then those plastic covers type thing that we use for those big events. That was the ask, something similar to that, basically, correct?
Yeah.
If that could be utilized as a
something like that, or the overhead, whichever would, just so that there was continuity with the reinforcement, or certain designs that you're allowed to use, or how you can construct one and out of what.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we have to be careful, though, that we don't encourage people to be parking in front of their houses all the time with their trailers. So too, it's supposed to be, I believe, 72 hours before the trailer's moved. I'm not sure, but we don't want to clog them.
A trailer can't be unattended, like unattached. If it's with a vehicle there, it can be.
For how long, though?
For that length of
72
time.
hours. Yeah, so that's something I think we want to make sure that we enforce if we do go ahead with allowing people to plug in. I have no trouble with an overhead one. I can see some of the issues with on the ground just because of people in walkers, wheelchairs, and whatnot. One fellow compared it to the cracks in the cement. It's no worse, but the cracks may be an act of God, where if someone puts something across the sidewalk, it's a little bit more hazard, I think. So I don't know if we could direct our administration to look into some sort of a way to do this properly.
And I'm just looking at Mr. Chair. Are we planning on bringing the traffic bylaw back in August?
Yes, we are.
Okay, 'cause that's where this is enshrined, right? Yeah.
So part of this, you were talking about Cornfest was the covers we have for our cords. Those are in the electrical code. We have to have them. So this could be part of that electrical code also. Right?
Yeah, we could craft that into the bylaw. Yeah.
I think it's something to address sooner and later, the better.
Yeah, we had the intention to bring the traffic bylaw back in August in any event, and opening that back up. There's a number of amendments that we have to just bring everything up to date with the traffic bylaw. So that would be one of them that would be up for discussion. If council would like to give a specific direction leading into August, that would be great. Otherwise, what we'll do is we'll just note that that's an area that council would like to focus on and have some discussion around there when we bring that back. But if you would like to lead us and give us some direction through the form of a motion, then we would work that into our draft right now.
Do you want to do a motion regarding to that, or?
Yeah, I think a little bit of discussion though. I think what the motion we'd like to read is somehow we can achieve a safe way of allowing trailers to be hooked up, public safety. I'm not really sure the proper way to craft that motion. What would you like to see in it?
Well, I would suggest that where council might be heading with this is allowing RVs to be disconnected on the roadway adjacent to primary residence for no longer than a 48-hour period and not be causing any hazards with electrical hookups.
But you said disconnected from the truck then. So you're thinking it's all right to unhook a trailer in front of your house?
It happens right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that it's in the bylaw that you are not to have any trailers disconnected from a tow vehicle anytime ever in the town of Taber. That is not strictly enforced. It does occur. And what we're talking about then is, I'm thinking this is what I'm getting from council, is that you're all right with that reality. It's happening right now. And if it's not parked on the road for 2 weeks or a week and become an eyesore with a flat tire, 48 hours is probably reasonable to pull it in Wednesday, pack it up Thursday, maybe drive it out Friday morning. That sort of concept, I think, is reasonable. And I'm assuming that's the direction that higher level council would like to take this.
It's something I'd like to see examined. I'm not sure that's the direction we want to go with unhooking trailers, but that's what my motion will read. And Mr. Mayor, if I may, that we direct administration to investigate safe and proper ways of leaving vehicles in front of driveways, and if we're able to supply power, the best and proper way of doing that, if I may.
Friendly amendment, recreational vehicle rather than vehicles.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you.
Could probably include trailer in there.
Recreational vehicles would cover trailer, I would think, wouldn't it? Could put trailer.
Yeah, okay.
We'd add trailer into that motion.
Just a correction here. I mean, you've got motorhomes is not a trailer. A camperized van is not a trailer.
Trailer is not a vehicle. That's the difference.
Recreational vehicle, I think, would cover all of that.
That's what I'm saying. A recreational vehicle is something with a motor.
But we're direct administration to look into it, so they can tell us.
Okay, are we good with that overall?
Administration is good. We
Okay.
got your drift.
All right.
Bring back some in August, yeah.
Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carry unanimously. All right, any other stand-on? Councilor Beckering.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had a concern from a resident regarding a trip hazard due to the growth of roots around the walking trail around the golf course, right in the vicinity of the golf club maintenance building. Apparently, the person showed me a couple of pictures. They're quite high, and the roots are growing through the asphalt, and this person believes that it's a severe trip hazard. Could we look into it, please?
Right.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, we can look into that.
Okay.
The motion per se, that's got that covered. Okay, perfect. Anything else? Councilor Stravas.
Yes, Your Worship, while we're looking at the bylaw, perhaps we should look at making our bylaw a little more environmentally friendly and look at promoting electric vehicles on the roadway in town, specifically golf carts that are electrically driven. Of course, they would have to be properly equipped with lights and horns, and these are becoming more fashionable in different communities stateside. So, perhaps Taber can be a leader in environmentally friendly vehicles on town streets. Just throwing this out for council's perusal.
Councilor Towns.
And rather than maybe a bylaw that we allow electric vehicles, maybe we need to investigate it, because I think the Traffic Safety Act has something to say about whether you can have golf carts in towns. And I know it come up at AMA once, and there's certain villages under certain sizes that were allowed to do it, and it was but for the rest, we're governed by the Traffic Safety Act, and I think that's going to override what we're thinking. But I totally agree with you. We should be able to allow half electric vehicles, golf carts, and that in town, but it's going to be a whole lot of homework.
So, Councillor Tams, are you in favor if I put
Absolutely.
this motion on the floor? Okay, then I'll make a motion that Council directs administration to take a look at environmentally friendly golf carts to traverse through the town of Taber roadways.
All right. Motion on the table. Councillor Bruin.
Discussion. I like the angle of environmentally friendly. Yeah, I suppose I would support it with as long as they're legal.
They would have to be equipped with tail lights and those type of
insured.
things, yes. And insured, yes. Licensed.
Okay. Councillor Beckering.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Question to Councilor Stroas. Is a gas-powered golf cart environmentally friendly?
Well, that's why I said electric. Oh, I don't know. Is a gas-powered golf cart environmentally friendly?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Okay,
Okay.
then would you like to make a friendly amendment to my motion?
I will do so, Mr. Mayor, and I'll make the friendly amendment to include all golf carts.
Okay. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Just another thing that came up, coffee with the council there about the cemetery, Mr. Arnfelt, and the headstones leaning one way or the other, forward or back. If I guess if there's some kind of report that can be done, I believe Ms. Van Ham takes care of that for the most part. Is there something we can have with that, with some recommendation and or something that's going to satisfy our council, coffee with council attendees? This comes up regularly anyway, and
Yeah, we had had a discussion about that
correct. Yeah.
in my office, and we certainly can prepare a report to council based off of the level of service that we extend.
Yeah.
We do repair leaning monuments in the cemetery, perhaps not to the level of service that some people in the community expect them to be, right to the 90 degree pin, but we certainly do if there's some that are on an extreme lean, and as we had discussed, it's actually a fair amount of effort that your administration undertakes to go in to talk to the individual who's on the essentially the title for that particular plot in the cemetery, to make arrangements to them to get access to that plot to straighten the gravestone. And we can provide council with the work that administration does to make that happen. Yep.
All right, fair enough. Any other stand item with council
Mr. Mayor,
items? Councillor Bruin.
I had more of a question. The timers on the Confederation Park for the sprinklers, are they on timers or do we just turn them on as needed?
They are on timers.
I did have a couple of older folks walking, and they say it always hits them when they're walking, their morning walks, and they wondered why we water during the day and not at night.
Depends on your definition of when the day starts, I suppose. to a senior, that's awfully early.
Some cases it is.
Yeah.
Parkside Manor, actually, one of the patients in there said every time they have their daily exercise pattern, it seems to hit the sprinklers. But I suggested that they speak with Public Works to see if there is a certain time.
It's a recreation sets that. It's an operational. I know that I've seen the spreadsheet. We do track all of the parks when they come on. We ramp up watering in the spring and then dial it back as the summer kind of turns into June, July, and then might ramp it up again in the fall as it gets drier in August and September. So, there are variables that we can control, and we can control that timing. We can certainly bring that back to council if you wish, or.
Well, it was more of a question, like, can they be changed if they're needed, if they have a certain set time when they know they're going to be walking with the residents, or I don't know. It's a thought that was brought up, and I said I would check into it.
Yeah, absolutely. Either we can get in touch with the interested party, or the interested party could get in touch with the recreation department?
That's what I suggested, so.
Okay.
All right, anything else? And nothing more you're in need of, Mr. Arfeld?
A motion with regards to the cemetery, the direction on the cemetery to bring back a report to council on the cemetery matter would be appreciated.
Someone prepare to make that motion? Councillor Tams.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I move that we direct administration to bring a report back to council with cemetery headstone alignments and repairs.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Good, thank you. Anything else arising? Okay, I would just ask, covers everything till our delegations, correct? So if I could just ask for a 30-minute recess to reconvene 30 minutes from now. Dinner break. Yeah,
We have dinner check.
we do. Yeah.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Towns, motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. All right. motion to reconvene the meeting, please?
Also move, Mr. Mayor.
Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Going on to item number 7, delegations, 7.1, delegations South Central Alberta Rural Crime Watch Association. Mr. Armfield.
Yeah, we had a request from Mr. Kevin O'Grady to come to speak with council this evening, and he's got a bit of an entourage with him. I'll leave introductions up to Mr. O'Grady when he gets up to the mic. As you know, according to the procedures bylaw of council, everybody has 10 minutes to make their presentation. That's followed by some Q&A after that council may have. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. O'Grady, and go ahead, please.
Thank you. Along with myself, we've got Mark Ross and Margaret Plumtree, 2 of our executives as well. What we're trying to do is just give you more or less information, as you got the letter that was sent in, giving you information on what was happening. I'd like to turn around. Oh, sorry. Oh yeah, this is live stream. Sorry about that. No, the whole purpose is just to come give you a little bit of information with the association that's being formed here. With the government's push last year to try getting more crime prevention going throughout the province in the rural areas and stuff, the RCMP is really trying to push the Rural Crime Watch as well program. And what the rural program does is it works with the Citizens on Patrol, Victim Services, and other agencies throughout the province. It works with all policing agencies as well. So what we're trying to do now is we're in the process of, we applied for our society, so we're waiting for the government on that aspect. So if you guys got any ties with the Alberta government and the societies, get a hold of them. They told us it's a 5-6 months wait. But yeah, it's more or less because I'm a firm believer. Everybody needs to be notified of what's going on. For the town of Taber, we have our own police force, but there is a lot of issues where stuff is stolen from within the town, hidden in the MD, or vice versa. It's stolen from the MD, brought into the town, and it usually ends up in Calgary or Edmonton to be sold, right? So, and that's where we're trying to do. We're trying to get the eyes, ears out in the public, so that way they know, what's going on, who to watch for, and then who to contact is the other part of it, right? Do you contact the RCMP? Are you contacting a town police? Are you contacting the CPO program here? That's what our main purpose is, right? Is educating them, keeping them informed, because the way the whole program works is if we get notified of something going on in the area, we send it throughout to the members, and the members could keep an eye out. So if there's a green SUV everybody has to watch out for in their area, they know, right? There's a couple with an SUV, they're out scouting about, trying to see what they could get away with and where they could hide stuff, where they could set up a truck that they could meet to offload stuff. So that's basically what it is. It's just an information thing for you guys. And if you have any questions, we'll gladly try to answer them for you.
All right, thank you. Councillor Stravas.
Yes, Your Worship, to our delegation here. There was just a presentation not too long ago to the MD of Taber about their program there that they have. A couple of residents appeared there. So do you have any interaction with the MD and their policing units?
Definitely. Dana Butler, their constable for the CPO program, he's our representative through the MD on that aspect. The MD itself is 100% supporting. They're actually going to give us some finances to help cover all the costs for getting set up as a society and everything, and help us make sure we do some great promoting and stuff. And then, of course, the RCMP is our other contact, Sergeant Yitman.
Follow-up question, what about with Taber Police Force?
Well, that's the one thing. I've already talked with a couple, because I went through, the goal is to talk with the COP constable. And I believe it's Mark Valgerson that's looking after that. And that's something where I'm hoping I could get permission from the town to definitely approach him and work with the COP program here in town.
I don't think the town can give you permission. I think you got to go through the chief of police and the police commission to get that. That's a separate entity.
Okay.
Other questions? Did Ms. Plumtree or Mr. Ross have anything to add to this presentation at all? Or
Yeah, just basically at this time, it was just an information session to let you know that this program is well on its way. We're just waiting for our paperwork. All our bylaws are done. So we're just waiting to get started. So we're hoping the more exposure we can get through councils and newspaper, that'll really help us to get going and get that membership later on and start getting those signs out in the communities to start making our communities safer for everyone. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Ross, did you have anything else? All right, thank you. Just to clarify, Mr. Grady, so this has been in the works with the RCMP for a while now, I believe you were saying here.
Well, the RCMP were asked to spearhead it within the province. It's actually the NDP government is the one that was starting to push something to get something clear up some of the crime that's been going throughout the whole province, right? So they pushed back in February the RCMP to start initiating things, and that's when we kind of made that agreement with them of what our role will be as a Rural Crime Watch and other organizations like the COP program and stuff like that, right? Citizens on Patrol and that. And their Sergeant Yetman is the one that spearheaded it down here to initiate it, but it's been a project of the province. Like, everybody knows there's a lot of issues going on within the rural area of the province. And they're just trying to get the eyes and ears out there to kind of nip everything in the butt.
Right, Councilor Bruin?
So this is very similar to the old Crime Watch that was here 30 years ago.
Oh yeah, it is the same. The old one was the the Range Patrol is what it used to be called years ago.
My uncle was actually really involved with that and saw lots of it. Yeah, so we're not reinventing the wheel. You're just starting it up.
No, because really, within the province, you got to remember, for a while there, everything was going so great, crime was down, but then as soon as you start having people unemployed and you got issues going on, all of a sudden crime goes back up, right? So they're really pushing to get it going again, and around here, it kind of phased right out by the year 2003, they figured, and now it's they get it going again. So. But the name itself, the South Central, Alberta Rural Crime Watch, is because we have some interest, and we're not, like, our detachment is not just strictly the MD at Tabor, right? So we're looking at supporting that whole detachment area, which goes down to the Highway 61. So,
Mr. Beckering.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. O'Grady, we all know that crime has no boundaries, right? So I think we'd be foolish not to support this. I think this is an extremely worthwhile endeavor, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you very much.
Yes, absolutely, and thank you for undertaking this initiative there, and information sharing is nothing but a positive and can't help but help going forward.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time, Your Worship.
Thank you. Someone prepared to make a motion. Councilor Beckering.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll move that Council accepts the presentation from the South Central Alberta Rural Crime Watch Association for information purposes.
Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Good. Thank you. On to item 7.2, delegation Tabor Off-Leash Dog Park. Mr. Arfel.
Yes, the town administration was in a receipt of a letter from Ms. Danielle Ulrich, who's coming up to the mic right now to make a presentation to council with regards to her interest in some fundraising efforts that she's put in for the dog park area. And I think if council is okay, I'll just turn it over to Ms. Ulrich for her presentation.
All right, thank you. Ms. Ulrich.
Well, June was a busy month. We did 6 fundraisers. Throughout the month, all of that money we want to delegate to the dog park. I was hoping to raise $4,000. We ended up raising just shy of $6,000. My husband and I chipped in the last little bit, so we've made it an even $6,000. With that $6,000, I now have enough to kind of purchase not more than what I want. I just think I'm switching gears a little bit. Initially, I wanted to buy part of a fence and a shelter and maybe some benches. I honestly think now probably the better way to spend those funds would be to replace all 4 sides of that south section of the dog park. And I say that only because the fence, if we just put in one, like number 4 fence, because it's 3-sided right now, if we put in a 4th one, a beautiful chain link fence that's 5 foot when everything else is 4 foot, Everything else is page wire. People complain that their small chihuahuas can get through it. To me, it's kind of a Band-Aid fix. So if we've got the money now to go and take out those 3 existing sides and put in 4 great sides, that kind of narrows down that area. Here's our area we're going to work on. And fencing being the most expensive part of this project, to me personally, makes sense to spend that $6,000 towards fence. So I've gone to a couple places for fencing quotes. I've picked the one that is most reasonable and seems to be the most helpful, and they've given us a discount for being a charitable, I guess, or we're not really charitable, but being an organization that we are. So it's DH Fencing out of Coaldale. They're the same fencing company that's doing the fencing for the ballparks. With the fencing supply only, we are looking at, for all 4 sides, we're looking at a total of $5,396 plus GST. So that takes us up to $5,666. I've priced out cement. I've gone to both Riverbend and priced out bag cement just to see what my options were. Most people are saying just go bag cement, and it is cheaper. So with the cement on top of that, that's another $429.03. Delivery, DH Fencing said they would charge us no more than $250, but if they had to come out for any work at the ballparks, they could just throw it on the truck and they wouldn't charge us for that. I've gone to Prime Equipment Rentals, which is now Cooper. They will donate the use of a skid steer to take off the chain link fence off of whatever truck brings it out. And hopefully it was an oversight on my part to ask him about a post hole digger as well. There's a few concerns that I do have with this project. I also have a letter here from the Kinsmen saying that they will donate the labor as well as their liability insurance to cover all of their members plus any other volunteers that are going to be out there helping. The concerns that I do have are, I guess, A, is a temporary fence, because if we take down the 3 sides of the fence to rebuild it, it's not going to go back up. Like, the fence isn't going to drop and we're not going to build a new one the same day. So we're going to have something to block that area off. So we are going to have to purchase, whether it's a snow fence or something, just to keep the dogs in. Also wondering about permits, if there's any permits that we're going to require to do this job. And also storage of materials, because I'm guessing that when the truck comes out and drops the material, unless, like, the chance of theft, is there some suggestion you guys can give me for that? Because I doubt that we're going to get it all up the second they drop it on the ground. So I guess I'm here to ask permission to go ahead with this, to move forward, to let's get this thing done, so we can all go and enjoy our summers.
All right, any questions arising? Councillor Firth.
Mr. Mayor, through to our delegation. So you are abandoning the idea of shelters or benches at this time?
Because a shelter is about $1,500. I think that's an easy, quick raise next summer, or to put it in the budget, town budget, or the recreation board budget for something. It's a small ask. This is a big ask. So I think if the money's there, let's do that. So yes, put it on hold, not to nix it completely.
Councillor Strauss.
Your Worship, Danielle here made reference to securing the area, and I see Mr. Shearer has left the room, but perhaps the town could contribute by putting up a snow fence in the interim period inside the other fence there, so that they could do the outside work. Perhaps that would be something that we could ask our administration if they could partake in helping this out.
Councillor Brune.
How many feet are we talking here, fence?
Roughly 600.
600 feet.
Yes, that does not include the entranceway, though. That's strictly the 4 sides of the actual area. So if we wanted to redo the entrance,
it would be unrealistic to tear it all down at once. You'd do one side at a time, I'm sure, and then work your way around it that way, because we wouldn't want to fence that whole area off with a snow fence.
Actually, it would only go from the entranceway straight across west to that other barbed wire fence. That's the only place that would have to be cordoned off.
take down the other fences, how will you keep the dogs in then?
That would be an area that wouldn't be used. So it's 170 feet of fence we would need to cordon off while we take down that outside fence and redo it. Yeah.
And this, sorry, Mr. Mayor, follow-up question with, are you involved with the Lost Paws Society then? Anything with the shelter at all? You're not fundraising together?
No. I was on that committee at the beginning. I was one of the founding members, but I was also doing this. And so I resigned from Lost Paws and focusing strictly on
Okay,
this.
so there are two separate accounts, like there's your money and their money, so they're
Yes, very much so, yeah.
Okay.
Right, any other questions arising? I'm just not quite sure, Danelle, about you're changing the focus here, or the scope, compared to what the original plan was, and or which has gone through Dawn and the rec board as well, right? So have you been in touch with Dawn about this at all? About this change ask?
Not specifically, no. And I would like to just clarify that my focus, I guess if you wanted to break it down into layman's terms, yes, my focus has changed. But as well, my focus has always been, number one focus has been fencing. It's just changed from the original 170 feet to let's do all 600 feet now because we do have the money there.
I understand that, but you're saying the same type of fencing as this 170 feet is around the whole 600 feet worth?
Right.
And that's a 5-foot
5-foot chain link. Yes,
fence.
with one man gate and one equipment gate.
So no separation like you were talking about previously?
There will be a separation still, that 170 feet that would initially divide off that one little jut out. We're going to do that 170 feet plus the other three sides. So essentially it's a square that we're going to be refencing, so it's all the same.
Okay, I guess I'm still just a little concerned about the non-involvement with our recreation director as far as not being aware of this. To my understanding, there was nothing wrong with the rest of the fence. You just wanted to do an add-on.
No, there's always been, and you and I had this discussion out there at the park.
You're talking about with
day.
your
Yeah.
large dog, there was. But I'm
Because
just saying nothing wrong with the fence per se, but just because of an extra large dog, that was your concern about. It'd be nice to have a 5-foot fence. So I guess that's part of my ask as well. Like I say, you haven't involved our recreation director or the rec board on that ask.
I've actually stopped in 3 times in the last week to talk to Dawn about it, and apparently she's on holidays until the 18th. And so yeah, it's not that I haven't tried to.
Okay. I guess to Mr. Armfield, I'm seeing a few concerns here, my end here, as far as some of the asks, as far as other council questions, et cetera. Do you see some of the same?
Yeah, certainly to just with the commitment of our public works crews, that was asked Mr. Scheer to come back into the room. He is a very aggressive work program for the rest of the summer. Now that's up to council, of course, as to whether he sticks to that work program and gets accomplished what those public works crews had considered to get accomplished this summer. But it would be fairly disruptive to their program to have them pulling them off, fixing sidewalks and gutters and the rest of their suite of work that they have to complete this summer and to move out to the dog park. That certainly wasn't anticipated.
Can I ask?
Yeah, sure.
Can I just ask for clarification on that? Are you suggesting that you're like just to put up that barrier fence or to replace the fence? Because I'm not asking the town to replace the fence. I have volunteers for that. The only thing Mr. Strovis suggested was that some of the town could potentially put a fence up while we do the work. The dogs can't get out.
Your worship, just maybe for clarification, and I understand what Mr. Armfield is saying here, perhaps then the town could make available the fence, and then the volunteers could put it up and address it, to secure the dogs in the meantime. Not knowing what Mr. Scheer's commitments are is to get stuff done. I do believe we do have the snow fence. I'm thinking we do, and if it could be made available to them to help them out.
It's your administration, just going back, Mr. Mayor, to our conversation that we were just having, your administration is not aware of this new ask. This new ask is new this evening. Dawn did leave for holidays on Thursday, so there would not have been the opportunity on Friday for a meeting prior to this meeting here. But this is something that we are hearing firsthand this evening. So I am not inclined to make commitments for the Public Works crew, not really understanding what the scope of the ask is.
All right, Councillor Thames.
Yes, well, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I happen to totally agree, because when originally this proposal came to us, we were expecting something different, and now we're getting a request for a fence, and I can respect that, and I can maybe even agree with you. But long story short, we do have a rec director for a reason, and I think that for us to enter an agreement, because at the end of the day we're going to enter an agreement with the Kinsman right now, I think that's premature until our rec director is back and our rec director has had a chance to meet with you and to go out there. I think we need to follow that protocol, because as much as I might agree with what your ask is and everything else, that puts different things. You had a question about permitting. We need to have our rec director and our administration and our staff go out there and take a look. Are we changing what we can, or are we doing something we shouldn't be doing? Although it is our property and dog run, we need to do it right. So I think we almost need to table this, Mr. Mayor, till we have a chance for this to go to our rec director, and then it can come back.
Well, alternatively, I mean, the other thing we could do, if the town so chooses, I could supply the fencing, and if the town would like to chip in the cost for the installation, then DH Fencing would be more than willing to come out and install it completely for us. And that's about a $3,700 ask.
It's not a this or that. It's we have a piece of property, and we have administration and a town staff that has to answer to the residents of the town of Taber through the council as to what we're doing. So we need to ensure that we give our administration and our staff all the opportunity to do what we're doing on that piece of property. And it's not whether the fence is donated or put in or volunteers. It's not that we're opposed to it. We just need to make certain that as council, we are approving to our administration that we're doing the right thing, and that we've had a chance for administration to look at it and come back to council and say, hey, this is a good thing. This is what we can do and can't do. We need that direction as a council too. I understand that. And the reason I'm suggesting is we table it is so that our administration has time to do that job.
Can I ask how long it would be tabled for? The reason I ask is because we have had this discussion on a number of occasions, whether it's been me attending coffee with council or coming here to council, was that my ultimate goal was to replace the fencing on that south section. And that was prior to knowing exactly how much we could or would raise in the month of June. So I worked my butt off, my husband and myself and a few other small volunteers, and we've raised exceedingly more than what we had planned. I did try to get a hold of Dawn. You can ask your staff at the front counter. We have emailed back and forth, Dawn and myself, unsuccessfully reaching each other. So to say that this is the first you've heard of it, I think is not well spoke of, because I have spoken of that my entire time of replacing. My number one priority has been a new fence. And even some of you yourselves have said that, yes, the fence out there needs to be replaced. So I agree that, let's talk about permits, but I don't want to, I understand the wheels of the government move slowly, but if there's things that you're saying we haven't discussed, but we actually have, then I think those things need to kind of be bypassed. Let's move on. And if I talk to Dawn, what's Dawn going to say? Sure, yeah, it's a great idea. Let's put a fence up. Or, I don't know what she'll say, but I don't see the point in waiting till she gets back from holidays. I've got the volunteers. I've got the money. Well, I'll get the supplies. So aside from permitting, I'm not sure what decisions does she clarify for me.
I totally get it. There's a great deal of passion and a great deal of wanting to get this done. And don't get me wrong that I'm not supportive of this, but in the same breath, we sit here as elected people on council and we have a staff that works for us. We need to also make sure that we have done our job and that they have the ability to do theirs. And yes, the wheels of government sometimes are slow, but it's to ensure that we do things properly.
But I guess that's where I'm looking for clarification. I'm not sure. Dawn and I have spoken of fence, so you want to bring her back in and say we've gone from 170 to 600. Is that okay? essentially.
Exactly.
In layman's terms, like I don't like reading between the lines, so just put it out there for me.
Exactly. That. We need to know that.
Well, part of it is like now all of a sudden this is going to be left wide open. So there's another need, as you said, which is new, to block it off for the repair or enhancement change. So that was never on the table before. You know, it was 170 feet of fence previously, and I'd asked yourself about this, about other users, and you said there seemed to be receptive people to that, but I haven't heard from anybody else personally about that, and that's something we have to ask your administration to speak with other users as well. As this is great, you got this idea, and all your efforts are a great thing for what you're trying to achieve and improve for the dog park. But it's not just about yourself. It's all about all the users, right? It's got to be an improvement and enhancement for everybody that's on board with that.
Right.
Because for whatever reason, there may be some that aren't in favor of some of your suggestions there, and then we have some problems, right? If that's the case there. So as long as we got the majority support to say all the changes are agreed upon and well received, then there is no big problem. But it doesn't happen overnight, for sure. And I know your efforts haven't happened overnight with the fundraising, but that's just one side of it. And that's what Councillor Tams is getting at. As far as administratively, this is the first they've heard of this, and that's not fair to them. And it doesn't make it fair for us to try to make that final decision there. And unfortunately, Don's away at this time there, so I believe tabling is the answer for now, and to be dealt with at the August meeting. That's doable, I believe, Mr. Armfield.
Yeah, administration get an understanding of what the new scope is, and then we can present that back to council once we get that understanding. But it's a coordinated effort. It's not a small effort on the side of the administration to work this into our plans, for sure, the public works side, to work this into the plans midstream in the summertime. Those guys do have a pattern. They are working on some things that is scheduled out for the next 2 months. They have every day scheduled for the next 2 months. So if something is dropping off, so this can be accommodated, we want to make sure we drop the right thing off.
So Dawn is now away for the next 2 weeks or whatever?
She's back this week. She's on
this week?
Back, yeah.
Okay.
The 18th.
18th.
Okay. So you're able to talk to her later this week, apparently, if she's back in the office here.
Well, is that something I need to approach Dawn with now, or is that something you guys as a council go to Dawn with? Again,
well, I mean, we can certainly pass it on, but I think you need to be discussing, as you have been all the way through, with Dawn for whatever changes are in mind there and the next step. But again, there's some legwork to be done. And yeah, it's just, like I said, this is just a bit of a surprise to come back with a change of focus there. And, well, it's completely different from what your letter said and your last package involved, and so it has changed. And I see your rationale, but those are the steps that have to be taken, I believe, and I think Councillor Tams is right that it should be tabled for now until those steps can be undertaken. Councillor Tams.
With that, Mr. Mayor, I move that we table this to our August meeting.
All right. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Good. Thank you. Pardon me?
I don't think it was unanimous.
You're opposed? Okay. All right. All right. Okay, we're on to item number 8, media inquiries. Tabor Times, any questions? Perfect. Good. Thank you. I don't need a motion to go into closed session also, please. Councillor Bruin?
I move that we go into closed session.
Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried now. Good. Thank you.